Hey guys, welcome into today's podcast. Scott is back from
Yo,
Thailand. Scott, welcome back.
hey, so stoked to be back in the States.
Yeah, man, we're pumped to have you. And today's episode, I'm so stoked to run this one with you, Scott, because this is the first one that we're actually doing together as a team. And we decided to pick a big one, how to build persistence. This is an essential skill. It's a state of mind that can be cultivated. We might as well just jump straight into it. Scott, what is persistence?
When you go Google what is persistence, it's continued action in the face of unforeseen obstacles. Maybe they're unforeseen, but I say this all the time. We set big, gargantuous goals in life and business. And what is inevitable is that we are going to experience hurdles and roadblocks and things that we did not anticipate. There is no like red carpet that gets laid out in front of us and we just walk down that carpet and get to where we want to go. And I'm really stoked to talk about some key things that have helped me today to not just cultivate persistence but practice persistence in the face of that internal wanting to just give up when things get really, really hard.
Yeah, that's well said. And I think that when you look at people who have done great things or accomplished their dreams and goals, there's this, I think, belief. And I think that people use it because it's very comforting, but we have this belief that oh, you're kind of born with willpower type of thing. Like some people are just born that way, man. They're just, but I've seen quite the opposite, right? Because if you look at the symptoms of lack of persistence, if you really look at what those symptoms are, I used to have all those things. And we may as well just kind of like jump into some of those things. Like when you're dealing with a lack of persistence, you're dealing with indecision, you're dealing with procrastination, you're dealing with like fear of criticism, you're dealing with things like the desire isn't strong enough, a failure to recognize and even define what you really want in life. People typically create alibis or excuses. So these are just symptoms. And I used to do all these things. I used to blame other people. I used to not be able to ever define what I wanted in life. Like I had these fear that other people would judge me when I started to go into coaching. I always wished for things instead of actually willing them, right? So the biggest thing that I kind of want to hammer before, Scott, you talk about some of your stories is this is a state of mind. That's all it is, right? Persistence is a state of mind that you can actually develop. So for you, Scott, I would love to hear you talk about, because you've done some incredible things. I think the Everest story for you is always really inspiring. Can you tell me about a story where you created and developed persistence, and then at the end of it, you achieved something monumental? Like, what would be one of those things for you?
Sure, sure. But before we even get into, I guess, the meat of the story, I think we backpedal to like the psychology of quitting,
Um,
because we there is no persistence in the presence of quitting, in the presence of procrastination. With when somebody is procrastinating, they've fundamentally already subscribed to failure. There is no persistence in the state of procrastination. And the story that I'm going to share with you here, and I'll give you a condensed version because we could talk for 30 minutes about it at least, is healing from a foot injury much different than yours, Mike, and trekking to Everest Basecamp. And I spent 3 months, maybe 4 months, trying to get a diagnosis. And emotionally, I just wanted to curl up and quit on life, quit on trying to remedy my foot, quit on trying to heal and get strong again so that I could do the basic things like walk without a limp, ride a bike, wear shoes, put ski boots on, just the basic things that I took for granted for so many years. And what really changed for me was what was a pivotal moment is when I went to my first physical therapy session, and my physical therapist became my guide, my coach, my healer, my source of inspiration, the person that kept me going and persisting through the little things that I needed to start doing every single day so that I could get strong enough to walk 1 kilometer, so that I could get strong enough to go and do a 5 kilometer hike, so that I could get mentally and physically strong enough to inspire myself with this burning desire to go do something that I wanted to do as a child. And that was hike to Everest Base Camp. And through months and months of training and building a vision of what this would look like and feel like, and a plan of action that included all the resources required to actually turn this into a reality, I got on my flight to Nepal. I flew all the way to Lukla, which is the highest airport in the world, and I began my trek to Everest Base Camp, which was about a 2-week trek. Over the course of those 2 weeks, I trekked over 4 mountain passes. I went up a bunch of other peaks, and eventually I got to Everest Base Camp. But before I got to Everest, I got really sick. And I think it was
On the
just,
trip, like
yeah,
during
I got
the
pretty
trek?
sick. Yeah. I got nosebleeds. I got congestion. I actually had to rest in one of the little mountain lodges for an entire day before I trekked up to Everest Base Camp. And when I got to the last village before Everest Base Camp, I almost just decided to curl up and quit and not hike the last mile to base camp because I felt so terrible.
What was going through your
And
head at that moment right there? You want to quit. Like, what are all the thoughts that are coming in?
uh, my body isn't physically capable of doing this. If I go, I'm just going to get sicker, and I'm going to be stuck at base camp, and I'm going to have to ride a helicopter to get a heli evac out to Kathmandu. Uh, Staying in this little lodge is the safest thing that I can do for my health and my well-being. Maybe it was, who knows? Um, but there was also this little voice in my head that said, now is your time to go. And now is your time to realize this vision that you had set out to accomplish months ago. And I believe that vision, backed by the burning desire to actually turn it into a reality, the purpose behind me doing this was actually proving to myself that it was possible to heal and recover from something that was debilitating. I mean, I was fundamentally handicapped before I set out to go to Everest and turn this into a reality. So I ended up hiking to Everest Base Camp. I did not feel 100%. I mean, we're at close to 18,000 feet. The oxygen saturation, I think, is somewhere around 50% that of sea level. So my body's getting way less oxygen than you're getting here sitting at sea level. But it was a magnificent experience just to go there and be there and get to experience the power of the Everest region and to get to see the ice fall. So I went to base camp. I hiked back to my lodge. I rested, and I actually hiked Kalapatar, which is a peak that sits just south of the Everest Base Camp and gives you a magnificent view at just over 18,000 feet the next day. Now, had I just curled up and sat in that little lodge and not taken the steps to get to base camp that day, I probably would have gotten sicker. I would have curled into a state of emotional depression and despair. And I believe that when we stop moving, we start dying. Our body starts seizing up like a motor vehicle, and the things that made us feel so terrible in the beginning just exacerbate themselves over that period of time. So that's my short story. Again, I know we could talk for probably hours about Everest.
And we could. And on the last podcast, I was like, touched on the Iceland story, and I was thinking, oh man, if I start explaining that story, this podcast is going to turn 2 hours. So I think it's awesome. A very good condensed story, and maybe we unpack it in another episode in detail. But this episode is about persistence, and I think Scott, for you, that trip, um, that trip for you was life changing, right? I mean, it was life changing. The lessons, the wisdom, the insights that have come out of that have probably catapulted you as an entrepreneur. Am I wrong?
I mean, there's so many metaphors that can be taken from nature and adventure that can be translated into life, relationship, health, and business. And one of the biggest things that I think Everest really ingrained in me was the ability to take something that feels and seems completely impossible. In our dreams, before we actually start to get some proof that they're possible, feel impossible to us. And what I did was I chunked my goal down into big sections, things that needed to be accomplished so that I could feel like I was prepared to go to Everest in the first place, and regaining the strength in my left leg and becoming free from foot pain was obviously a major milestone on that path. And that milestone was broken down into all of the little things that were necessary, like the daily massage work that had to be done, the daily exercises, the weekly PT sessions. All of these little steps got me to Everest Basecamp. All of the little steps, the keystrokes, the projects, the tasks have gotten us to this point where we are with Peak Prosper. So I think that it's so easy to procrastinate when we're just looking at the vision. The vision can become so daunting that we get frozen in not even analysis paralysis, but vision paralysis, because it feels absolutely impossible. Yeah.
So if someone's listening to this right now, because the reason why I asked you that question about the Everest accomplishment is because it's had a major impact on your life. There's guys that are listening to this podcast that have major dreams and goals that would indefinitely change their life and their family's life and their friends' life in such a huge way. But you need persistence. Like it is a net. If you want to achieve your dreams and goals straight up, you need persistence. So how does one cultivate this state of mind? Again, you are not born with it. It is a state of mind that can and will be cultivated. How does one do it, Scott?
I One of my best friends, his name is Drew, and his dad growing up, he always said, Scott, as long as you wake up each day, make your bed, get dressed, and go out into the world, life will take care of you. You will continue to take the actions that are necessary to achieve your goals. Not every action that you take is going to be the right action that gets you to where you want to be. But as long as you continue to test and iterate and modify and revise and listen to the feedback that you're getting and be willing to continue to take actions regardless of the results that you are experiencing, and keeping your vision in the front of your mind, you will get to where you want to be. If I was to give maybe three just simple recommendations to somebody that might be listening, somebody that's interested in cultivating persistence and perseverance, I would suggest that you get clarity around exactly what it is that you want, not just some vague vision like I want to go hike to Everest Base Camp, but what does that vision look like culturally, spiritually, emotionally, physically? What is that entire experience going to look and feel like for you? And then secondly, just make a plan of action. Break that plan down into something that just for today seems very achievable within a 24-hour time frame. What can you do in the next 24 hours that's in alignment with that vision for your future? And no matter how small it might be, just taking the little steps today will help you begin to build the momentum that's necessary, that carries you into tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And then lastly, find somebody that's done it before. Find somebody that's accomplished the Everest size goal that you're after. Find somebody that's recovered from a gnarly foot injury. Find somebody that's found meaningful work, which is exactly what we help people with at Peak Prosper, that can be your guide, that can help guide you through those inevitable roadblocks and obstacles and challenging points that you're going to experience on your path to Everest.
So define exactly what you want. Secondly, take exactly what you want and then break it down into a plan of action, starting with what can you just go do in the next 24 hours to start turning it into a reality. Third thing, find someone who's done what you've done. And trust me, unless you're Elon trying to launch a rocket and land on Mars, guarantee that 99.9999% of people that are listening to this right now that are defining something they want, there's someone out there that's already done it. So So yeah, but happy days. I think, Scott, we should wrap it up with that. I think that's you got some action steps now. If you guys want to take a little bit of a deeper dive onto developing persistence, we've got a couple resources for you below. I'm actually going to attach that confidence meditation. So, persistence directly attributed to confidence as well. So if you're looking to just really build some powerful confidence, we created a free meditation for you that you can download below. And then we also have a 3-part mini course that we created as well. So if you really want to just like start taking action today and starting to cultivate and create a vision and figure out the action steps, access the free mini course for free. And hope you guys really enjoy today's podcast.
Awesome. Yeah. And just a couple of last comments. That mini course is going to help you with clarifying your vision and creating a plan of action. It'll guide you through the exact method that we teach to guys all over the world to help them achieve some really massive goals. And lastly, if you got any value out of this podcast, please take a moment to review us. That helps us reach more people, have a greater impact, and help make the world a better place. So thanks for tuning in today. Peace.
Cheers, guys.